Suave, que no me pierda de vista.
When dinosaurs were being evaporated from the planet, some creatures locked themselves away and survived. From the Tasmanian tiger to the brooding frog and the California condor, we have for you ancient animals which lived through the risk of extinction. La Palma lizard. Thought to be extinct for decades, the La Palma giant lizard proved everyone wrong when it was seen thriving at the same island. According to the scientists, the decline of this species started about 2,000 years ago, and it was believed to be extinct for almost 500 years. But guess what? The lizards were smart enough to hide themselves from the humans for years before they were rediscovered. It was in 2007 when the first photograph of the species was published in a newspaper, and after that, the evidence just started pouring in. Before moving any further, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon so you can keep watching our amazing content. Tasmanian tiger. Tasmanian tigers, which resemble a hybrid between tigers and wild dogs, were found all throughout Australia and Tasmania before going extinct. The most bizarre part about this is that people continue to spot and photograph these tigers despite the fact they were declared extinct in 1936. We are unsure of how to interpret the videos and images, despite scientists' repeated claims that they are incapable of being alive. 8 sightings of the tiger have been reported in total over the past few years, with the most recent occurring in July 2019, when a man reportedly found what appeared to be a Tasmanian tiger. Shoebill stork. On one hand, this bird can be the ingredient for the perfect nightmares for some, while on the other hand, some think of it as a bird coming straight out of a 90s animated movie. Well, whichever side you're on, you will agree with me on how ridiculously terrifying this bird actually is. Also known as the whale-headed stork, these large birds are native to the wetlands of Central and East Africa. They are mostly solitary creatures, which may explain why no one ever sees them. Also, they are on the verge of extinction, so they are being held in captivity till their population is enough to let them into the wild again. Laotian rock rat. One of the most scary rat species ever observed is the Laotian rock rat. This rat was identified as the sole surviving member of an extinct fossil family in 2005, and that species was considered to be extinct for 11 million years. And then, the world saw this rat being rediscovered in Laos by experts after years of presumed extinction. Over the past 10 years, the wider Mekong region of Southeast Asia has seen the discovery of over 1,000 new species, which is excellent news for the environment and the globe as a whole. The goblin shark. The goblin shark, described as a living fossil, was discovered for the first time in 2000. Measuring about 12 feet long and submerged at a depth of 3,600 feet. It is a very rare species that can only be found in the deep, black waters, and in my opinion, just looking at them shows how ancient and frightening they are. According to legend, the goblin shark has been there for 125 million years, hunting and hiding in deep waters where no one has ever been able to find them. California condor. The largest vulture and land bird in North America is the California condor. The population of these enormous scavengers drastically decreased during the 20th century, and by the end of the century, they had been declared extinct in the wild. When only a few of them remained in captivity, the US government started captive breeding programs for them, which helped to boost the population. Despite modest and steady growth, there are presently roughly 518 condors worldwide. The ghost bird. These adorable little birds were believed to be extinct for 400 years. A bird whose population was endangered by humans saw its number drop from 1 million to 0 in just 20 years. The gray and white Bermuda petrel was thought to be extinct until a teenage naturalist discovered roughly 17 nesting pairs of them. It is incredibly unexpected that a species whose extinction was all but guaranteed has somehow survived, seemingly out of thin air. The environmentalists promptly intervened and saved the birds. As a result of their efforts, there are currently about 400 birds, and ongoing precautions are being made to keep them safe from harm. Komodo dragon. The huge Komodo dragon, which dates back to nearly 40 million years ago, was obviously going to be included in our list. They are the biggest and heaviest crawling lizards on the planet. These dragons are thought to be the closest living relatives of the dinosaurs, according to many scientists. They were given the title Komodo dragons because of how they looked like a big dragon-like reptile. I mean, the sharp forked tongue does make people think of fire-breathing dragons, so why not? Due to the loss of habitat, the numbers of these dragons started to decline, and then they were taken in captivity. Currently, there are approximately 3,000 Komodo dragons still being held in captivity for safety's sake. Siberian mammoth. The last mammoth found frozen had passed away around 10,000 years prior, and mammoths had been extinct for thousands of years. In Siberia, another one was found completely frozen, and an extensive analysis revealed that its flesh was still fresh. The cells displayed signs of life, which was fantastic news for the researchers. Since the DNA was discovered to be intact, there are allegedly excellent possibilities that researchers will be able to bring this enormous prehistoric creature back to life. Aside from this, how could we forget to mention the claims of woolly mammoth sightings? However, we are unsure of their authenticity. You make the decision. Gharials. Gharials are considered to be one of the oldest animals to have ever lived on Earth, with the oldest fossil dating back roughly 200 million years. Gharials, also known as gavials, are closely related to crocodilians and have long, narrow, sword-like mouths that are packed with vicious teeth. However, because the modern gharials are the last of their species and have been classified as critically endangered, extra attention is being given to the ones in captivity and are still alive. Frilled shark. This shark travels through the water like a snake, waving its body until it comes across its chosen prey, which it often snatches and swallows whole. It appears to have given up on evolution and is content with its scary primordial traits. It has beady green eyes and crinkly brown skin, giving the appearance of a living relic. Its rows of razor-sharp, needle-like teeth are perfect for slicing apart soft-bodied squids, but if they get close enough, it will also gladly eat other fish and sharks too. Frilled sharks have long made an effort to avoid humans. Still, if you're looking for one, they can be found deep in both the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. Musk oxen. One of the strongest and most violent creatures on Earth is the musk oxen. If you don't believe me, you should sometimes watch this animal fighting over harems. They are so heavy and aggressive that even the ground starts to shake when they fight. Now, you must be wondering why it's on the list. Well, musk oxen have been roaming on the Earth for about almost 187,000 years. And while they have been, and went almost extinct in the 1800s, thankfully, the researchers and wildlife workers took action, and after being captive for years, their population grew. For now, they can be found in Alaska, if you ever wanted to go see them someday. Titanoboa. Now, for those who don't know, Titanoboa was a species of the largest snakes on Earth, and according to the scientists, it has long been extinct. Everyone agreed with them, until some videos hit the internet and immediately went viral. People were shocked to see a huge snake which totally came under the characteristics of a Titanoboa lying on an island. To me, this clip does not look fake at all. Baiji dolphins. The Baiji dolphin, also referred to as the beautiful goddess, was the first dolphin to ever be classified as extinct. Even though it horrified them, humans were directly to blame for the demise of such a beautiful creature. When people thoroughly searched the whole Yangtze River and were unable to see or hear any dolphins there in December 2006, the dolphins were officially declared extinct. However, there were a few dolphin sightings in 2007 following that. Therefore, there is a good likelihood that a family of Baiji dolphins still living in the ocean and undiscovered may exist. Gastric brooding frog. It has been known for about 30 years that this rare mammal, which swallows its eggs and raises its young in the stomach before giving birth through the mouth, has gone extinct. But we can assure you that that is no longer the case. The world was astounded by the remarkable amphibian's reproduction technique when it was first discovered in Australia in 1972. The mother frog's amazing capacity to transform her gut into a womb is amazing. And she has a gut that can digest between 20 and 25 tadpoles easily. Although intensive field searches were conducted, no more wild specimens were ever discovered after the last one was spotted in 1979 or 1981. The black leopard. The black leopard, also known as the black panther, is a melanistic color variant of the leopard and the jaguar, and as such, is not recognized as a separate species. Nevertheless, both species were formerly believed to be extinct. This very well could have been caused by the way that melanistic leopards are born, as opposed to being a separate species. Black leopards are only often developed when two recessive alleles in the leopard combine, since this particular gene is so rare. Although black leopards are significantly rarer than black jaguars and are frequently grouped together, there isn't much that scientists can do to help these cats. They will likely always remain quite uncommon. The cassowary. The cassowaries, which are directly related to dinosaurs, are thought to be roughly 60 million years old. These towering, vibrant, bipedal birds have a huge slab-like ornament on top of their heads, and their feet have sharp claws that resemble daggers. They are extremely dangerous animals, with a reputation for killing and attacking humans. Hence, they are referred to as the modern dinosaurs. Tapir. The tapirs have been a part of the planet's ecosystem for 20 million years, dating back to the Oligocene epoch. They haven't evolved much since the prehistoric era. Their body and lip shapes are identical to those of the first fossils of this kind discovered. With the exception of their long, elephant-like nose, which they use to hook food into their mouths, they resemble pigs. Although quite weird, tapirs had to be included in today's list because they are one of the most prehistoric animals who survived every risk of extinction and are still alive. White rhinoceros. These white rhinos, often known as square-lipped rhinoceros, were lost in the 20th century. The white beauty, the second largest mammal on Earth, and the most gregarious of all rhino species, was thought to be extinct by scientists in 1985 because they had been unable to locate it. However, researchers were shocked to discover a little group of roughly 20 rhinos living someplace in South Africa when they went to investigate the area. The scientists preserved and cared after these, but sadly, there are now only 2 left. However, researchers do intend to use Najin, who was born in captivity in 1989, and her mother to implant embryos made from their egg cells. Let's just hope we get them back in the wild and free soon. American bison. The most well-known species to have survived extinction is the American bison, also referred to as the American buffalo. In the 19th century, bison were on the verge of extinction. Since then, numerous reintroduction programs have attempted to increase their population. Thanks to these efforts, there are currently about 300,000 bison living throughout North America, with an additional 15,000 bison roaming free. Although they are far more widespread than they were a century ago, they are nevertheless considered a vulnerable species, since their range has been greatly limited and their population is much below its historical peak. Stellar sea lion. The Stellar sea lion is the largest member of the sea lion family. From Japan to California, they used to be commonplace throughout the northern Pacific. However, for unexplained reasons, their western population fell by 80% after the 1970s. In 1997, they were on the verge of extinction, but thanks to conservationists' work, a sizable percentage of the population has revived. However, due to the ambiguous state of their recovery, the IUCN still lists Stellar sea lions as a near-threatened species. Galapagos tortoise. The enormously big Galapagos tortoises measure around 919 pounds each. They are not only big, but they may also easily live for 200 years. These tortoises became extinct in the 20th century, despite having such enormous advantages. In just a few years, they plummeted from having a population of 250,000 to just 15. They were eventually declared to be nearly extinct, up until conservationists took in the last 15 animals, and the captive breeding program enabled the survivors to reproduce more frequently. This species that survived the threat of extinction is currently thought to number 15,000 in the wild. They remain susceptible because of their slow development rate, delayed physical maturation, and differences among island species. Cuban Solenodon. Because of the relatively small population and infrequent sightings, the Cuban Solenodon was long believed to be extinct. It was proclaimed extinct in 1970. However, after being spotted, it was found again in 1974. The scientists are not to blame. After all, can they? Being so tiny, it might be perfectly hidden. Why else would they assume it was gone? Horseshoe crab. These odd, helmet-shaped creatures have been living on Earth for over 445 million years, whether you believe that or not. Horseshoe crabs were plentiful around the ocean shorelines back then, when no one else could be located. They may have seen the first dinosaurs, the Ice Age and everything, and possibly were there even before that. God only knows how they've endured everything for this long. Pandas. Wondering why the pandas are mentioned here? Well, the wild panda numbers are finally rebounding after years of decline. In September 2017, the International Union for Conservation of Nature announced that pandas had been upgraded from endangered to vulnerable. Before then, their numbers were continuously declining, and due to that, they were taken into captivity and thrived there. For now, they are still usually kept and taken care of by humans. If in the wild, the risk still remains that they will go extinct. Jacoan peccary. Originally characterized by fossils found in the 1930s and dating back to millions of years, the peccary is a huge, hog-like animal. This is unusual, since scientists had an image of the animal in their minds when they discovered that it was still alive and thriving, living in the Chaco region of Argentina. The peccary was actually well known to the local natives, but it wasn't until the early 1970s that Western scientists realized that the animal was actually still alive and well. It is the last species of its genus, and just about 3,000 of them are currently known to exist. Takahe. The takahe is the largest surviving member of the rail family and a native flightless bird to New Zealand. When a living bird was captured and brought to Europe, the species was thought to be extinct when the specimen died 50 years later. However, the takahe was rediscovered by a scientist in an isolated valley, and the species is now managed by the New Zealand Department of Conservation, with predictions about their revival. These birds were heavily hunted by the indigenous Maori people, but Europeans did not name and classify them until 1847, and only from fossil bones in 1850. The crested gecko. You might not expect to see a crested gecko on this list, but there is a sizable pet market for them in Western nations and among reptile groups. Despite this, it is illegal to own a crested gecko without a license because they are a protected species that were thought to be extinct until they were rediscovered in 1994 by a researcher. The species was first discovered in 1866 and was incorrectly classified twice before being finally correctly placed in the current genus. Their name refers to their eyelashes, and they are not related to most other species of geckos. Despite being extinct, this gecko is now found in large numbers both in the wild and in the pet trade. Pygmy tarsier. The pygmy tarsier, often referred to as the mountain tarsier or less spectral tarsier, is an Indonesian native nocturnal primate. Although it was thought that the species had disappeared in the 20th century, it was rediscovered in 2000 when Indonesian scientists accidentally killed one while trapping rats. They have since been found in more substantial numbers, though they are still incredibly rare, and they are believed to be monogamous, sticking with just one partner. It lives in areas with very low vegetative species diversity, meaning that if just a few of the plants within the area die off, it could be extremely bad for the species. Well, that's all for today, guys. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for getting updates related to our latest videos.